I'm not interested, for example. Yeah, which is not always true. Usually when you want to have this one clue where you can say, okay, there is something interesting happening in that person. That's where the behavior changes of that person. So when you know the person always behaves like open and everything seems to be fine and has open chests, then if at one point he's not open, he's maybe having his hands here in the back or on his belly button or looking down, then there you can think, okay, something is going on. So we have to calibrate to other people. We have to first know them a bit in order to see that there is a change of the emotional state, for example, or there's something going on in that person. But I think every one of you is already a nonverbal expert. I do not believe that these things look strange to you. Every form of communication, except of the content, is body language. I'm sure you have read about those things, that distance, how close are you to someone, or the clothing, or the mimics, the gestures, the posture, all those things. I'm sure you have already seen those things, and it's not very much new. So I imply that you are already a nonverbal expert, that you're already doing this and you already know a lot about those things. Let's say, what does that mean? It's great. Okay, what does that mean? It's thinking, exactly, thank you. Or the whole body? More aggressive. Yeah, so you already know many things. And when it comes to international or intercultural signs, we all know nodding, for example, here in the Swiss. Alrighty. But I'm sure you have seen people nod like that. Yeah? Or yes. I will come to this also, to that part, because there we are talking about intercultural communication. So, but let's say in Switzerland, people know mostly what this means. Or people know also what this means if someone is like leaning to the back. It means more like, does it mean he's bored and tired, or does it mean he's more interested, he wants to know more? What is it more? First or the second? Interested or not?
Relaxed.
More relaxed, exactly. Yeah. Or let's say if the head goes back, if you see someone and you tell him something and the head suddenly goes back like this. So on the side it looks like more surprised. Exactly. So maybe less interested. If the head goes to the front like this, that means it's more interesting because I want to be closer to the picture. I want to be closer to that person looking into his eyes or her eyes. So many things you already know. And we make a lot of times, we make very fast, very quick impressions of other people. And it takes sometimes only a few seconds. Let's make a few tests, or one test. You see those 7 persons here, and you can decide now which ones in your impression, in your mind, which people did something great, something nice in the world, something positive, and which people have done something bad. And it's about half-half. So you can decide which ones are more the positive people and which ones are more the, they have murdered someone or helped for murder. Everyone has decided? Okay, so let's see. Who had all of them correct? All of them correct? Who had at least 2 correct? Wow. The single hand goes up. Who had more than 2 correct? So how come we didn't had the right idea about it? Because we had a picture, not moving picture. That wasn't pretty much unfair from my side. Sorry, I apologize for that. But we only have a short picture and we have a first impression. Is someone smiling, open, or is someone more showing his wrinkles and looking like Max Beckham into the picture? So we have drawers, and these drawers we are filling in within sometimes not even a second with our first impression, and usually it takes up to years to change such a first impression. Right? So a similar thing happens when you are now looking around the room, and it's a little exercise for you. Look around the room and try to remember all things that are blue. So look around for 10 seconds only and try to think about all the things that are blue. 10 seconds only. Great. So now just close your eyes for 10 seconds and tell me all the things that were red. Yeah, that's exactly. There's a lot of red there. Great. So you can open your eyes again if you want to. What was the problem here? You were laughing. Exactly. The focus was on a complete different color, on blue, and what we focus on we see, and the other things we do not see. And that's where our mind is playing a game with us, where we just do not see the whole picture of another person as well. We just focus on a few things, and we put those impressions we have of a person, we put them in our personal little drawers. Like, for example, the drawer of having the arms crossed, which can be true, but it doesn't have to be. I had in the first row as well, I had someone, when I was giving a speech in front of 50 people, in the first row was someone, and he had his arms crossed like this. And what happened was, he did not move. Like this, in the first row, he chose to sit there. And I had my speech for about 2 hours, and we had a little break in between. So he was moving like this also to the coffee machine in the break. So I was wondering, is this person maybe a little bit like, withdrawn or not interested? So I thought, I'm going to join him. So I was going to the coffee machine, and he let himself out of coffee, then I saw it. He had a stain on the tie, right there. So we might have a first impression of someone, but it can be completely wrong. It doesn't mean that it's always right. And that's where the body language is a field where you can make many mistakes. So my rule usually is look for at least 3 things that point in the same direction that can tell you, okay, he's interested, and then you can say pretty much for sure, okay, he is interested. And with the picture, it was not that much of a fair game right now. Yes, so many things you already know, and the body language, we're going to go a little bit deeper today because it has an impact we're not aware of. Just to test how awake you already are, little test again here. And it's about what number do you see. I'm going to show you a number for only, let's say, 1/3 of a second. And I would like to know from you which number it is. All right? You ready? 1, 2, 3. So in a very short period of time, what do you think what number it was? 10 million, 1 million? 1 billion? I know you have seen many numbers today already. I'll show you the same number again. I've heard several numbers here. I'm going to show you the same number again, and let's see if there's a change in your decision. Okay? 1, 2, 3. So it was a billion, exactly. So it was 1 billion. What was the difference? It was the same number. It was only the points. Exactly. So it got more clear through actually this little difference of the points. The small points, they make a profound difference in our perception. And body language it's about those small points. How can we give a subtitle in our body language so the other person understands us better or quicker? And that's the goal also for many people that are interested in body language. And let's make the picture a bit bigger. Body language, we have here, I do not exactly know how many cultures, but I believe more than 2 cultures. Probably 4, 5, 6 cultures, I'm not sure. And I heard also that your company is very versatile when it comes to cultures. So body language, we are lucky that body language is actually the most common spoken language in the world. The thing is, there's just some accents that are various. So the accents have some differences. As I heard just before from the sir back there, nodding does not always mean nodding. And sometimes this is interpreted as no, which is also not true. So we have some cultural differences, like yes and no when it comes to Indian culture, or let's say the distances. If we have a southern person and southern person meets a northern person, it's very funny to see what's happening there. Because a southern person there, the distance to the other person is much more appreciated. To be close is much more appreciated than to be far. The more north when it comes to Europe, the more distance is appropriate. The more south you go to Spain, to France, to Italy, it's much more appropriate to just shake hands, be close to the other person, even kiss the cheek, as a man. I've been married now 5 years with my wife, and she's coming from an Arabic country. And the first time when I was meeting my brother-in-law back there, he came to me, and he's like this height, so he's not very big, and he teared me down, and he gave me a hug, and he kissed me on his cheek with a 3-day beard. I have not had this experience before. Well, I did not remember my father's hugs, but it was a very strange feeling because I was a little bit intimidated because he came too close to me, which is not normal for me as a Swiss person. But for him, it's completely normal. So I started to learn, okay, different cultures means also you can also go get closer or be further away. So when you give hands to someone, if you have an Italian person, you give the hand, of course he will probably touch you not only on the hand, but also somewhere else. Here. Or here. And what if you're a Swedish person? Is someone from Sweden here? No? Or Denmark? Very northern country? No? Not really? The more north you are, it's very common that you are really like giving your hand far away. So it has a big difference between the distances. It's very interesting to see also if a northern person and a southern person meet together, when they stand on a place, they are moving. So the southern person always approaches and the northern person always walks backwards, if you watch that over time. So it's quite funny to see these cultures, even if there are no boundaries between, if there would be no boundaries, still the southern person they're more liking the closeness. Same thing with Eastern or Western. We have different nonverbal tricks, we have different nonverbal ideas about, for example, bowing. In our culture, to show respect is we are looking into someone's eye. And we might be nodding. In a different culture, it can more mean that we are also showing the whole posture changing, that we are bowing and going to a lower height than the other person. Or let's say cards, business cards. A business card in our culture, we can give it and the other person takes it and puts it away. But if you do that in Japan, or I believe in China, correct me if I'm wrong, in Asia, maybe in general, if you get the card and you put it there, it's not a very nice thing you're doing. You should put it always to your heart. And that's nonverbal signs. These are just the accents that we have, and these can be challenging but also interesting. But when we look further and we look bigger, then I have found with Michael Grinder, one of the, for me, most brilliant people in body language, I've found that there are a few things that are, in general, in the whole world, accepted. And there are some patterns that help us to really understand everyone, even if there's a different culture between. Because some patterns are very much the same everywhere. For example, the territorial behavior. Someone make himself bigger, it's called peacocking, means he's trying to dominate. Someone making himself smaller, so showing less space for my body, means I'm not so sure about it. I want to be not showing myself off. And that's transcultural. That's everywhere. And for example, the head forward and then a little bit tilting means always, in every culture, it means I'm interested, show me more. So these things are transcultural. So we cannot really say that there's a wrong or a right. We have to learn it, and everyone has his own body language, wherever you come from, and we just have to learn maybe a little bit more of the other cultures, which is very helpful, but then also understand just these all over worldwide accents and the language itself. So there's no wrong or right. I just picked that up because we cannot communicate wrong. We do communicate, there's no negative of behavior. And Paul Watzlawick, he once said that there's this sentence, you cannot not communicate. We are always communicating. If you, maybe at home, you're thinking, okay, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to tell you. Then of course this other person will see and will read your body and will have a message from you that you don't want to talk. So there's no wrong or right, there is just the question, what is effective and helpful or what is less helpful? So whatever you do today, maybe later in the evening, there's no wrong that you can do. It's always right. The question is just how much effect do you have when it comes to your behavior. And a few people of you already know this picture that Merhabian, I think about 50 years ago, stated that this iceberg model, that only 7% is what we say. And the rest, this 93% of body language and tonality, that's how we say it, and that's convincing the other person of what you just said. If what you want to say does not match with your body language, no one believes you. If I would stand now in front of you and I would say, it's so not nice to be here, I would rather be at home, and I do not like it here, the hotel is awful, then it's really strange, right? Or if I would say, it's beautiful to have you here, wonderful, I love you guys, then something does not match. So there's some kind of an incongruence, some kind of a thing that you do not understand. Okay, he says one thing, the 7%, but actually his body is saying something completely different. And when you are in negotiation, that also sometimes happens probably, that you hear a number, he says, yeah, that's great, yeah, that's wonderful, I'm very convinced, yeah. Then you know his body language says completely a different story than what he just said. So incongruence is less helpful in this content. So be more congruent means also be more credible. And when you want people believing you, it's important to be more congruent, so having this nonverbal congruence. Well, there was a study of 600 women in America where they were asked, how do they know if their husbands or partners are cheating? So guess from the first 10 things that these women said, how many things were nonverbal? What do you think? Out of 10 things? Hmm? The majority, yes. 7. 7 things. And I believe number 2, I do not have the whole ranking list, but number 2 was the husband, the guy, when he comes home, he's wearing too much perfume. So just a good idea for you guys here sitting. Do not add too much perfume before you come home. So when you have too much perfume, it means, okay, so he's hiding something. There's his body language, he's showing something, and I don't know what it is, something strange, I want to know more. That was not an invitation, by the way, to do something like that. Yes, so we want to be more congruent, which means our body language should support us. And credibility comes from this congruency. Now, where does this whole thing start when we are talking to someone? When you walk to someone, you meet someone the first time, then you usually shake hands. Of course, the first impression happens already before that. But the first, or most of the time, the only touch that you ever have with someone is through the handshake. And I'm going to tell a little bit, a couple of minutes about handshakes, but before I invite you to just stand up for 1 minute and shake at least 10 hands and just focus on how does it feel. Just shake hands normally, but then focus on the differences. So around 10 hands, maybe you stand up, just turn around and just shake a few hands. Okay. Great. Did you feel any differences? Or every shake was the same? There were some differences. Yeah. And what happens in this handshake? Usually when you shake so many hands, you will remember now the strongest handshake. You still remember the strongest handshake? Yeah? Steam. Yeah, you could also ask the most wet handshake. Yeah. Or the most weak handshake also. Yeah. And we have learned this behavior by a long time, and we do not focus on that. How is a handshake appropriate, or how do I shake my hands? Because we never get feedback, usually. So what is the impact? What is helpful or less helpful when you have a strong handshake? The impression that it makes with other person, is it this person has a lot of self-esteem, or this person feels little, small, like a small mouse? What is it more? Strong handshake? Yeah, more self-esteem. Yeah, he knows what he talks about. And a weak handshake usually leaves like the clue of, okay, I'm not sure if this person is ready for shaking hands, or maybe has like, I don't know, didn't focus on a handshake maybe, but it's a different impression than when someone has a grip that is really, that you feel well. And I'm curious if you felt now one of those handshakes here, because there are few very funny ones. For example, the grasping fingertips, that you're only touching the fingertips. Or the bench-wise, that's when you grab here and you push so hard that you hear the bones cracking. Or the bone breaker, that's you hold it a bit more in the front, and that's where it really hurts if you wear a ring on the wrong side. The Dutch carrot hand, very funny hand, may I? That's when you really just do not hold, and it's just this, how does it feel? Bad. Yeah, so the Dutch carrot hand, I don't know why it's Dutch, but it's carrots, definitely carrots. It's just a very strange feeling. The person, what it says is... Yeah. And it basically means, well, you don't want to get in touch with someone. You know you have to touch, but it's not a really nice feeling that you have in your hands if you receive this one. Or dead fish. The dead fish, that's, for me personal, a very bad one. That's like this. Where there's nothing coming, no energy, no touching. There's a difference between, and you hold like this, if you're a lady, let's say 100 years ago, then you could hold it like that. But that's a hand kiss. But usually, this dead fish, I do not see it much or do not feel it much anymore. And the worst thing that can happen, that I felt it once, is if this person had his hand in his pocket for like maybe half an hour, and it's like this sauna in there, and it's growing bacteria, and then 5 seconds before he wants to touch you, he's grabbing out his hand and gives you the hand, and it's just very surprising, I would say, very surprising. Yeah, so dead fish. Or pumping grip or pulling the plug. The pulling the plug is also means that you are trying to get that person into your zone. Pulling the plug is very, very directive, if I may. That I'm really pulling him almost up. That I want to drag him into my zone, and I want to direct him with this. And when you have a very, very good friend, now soon the football starts, so I'm guessing some of you also watch games, probably. And when you see there, it's maybe interesting to check how many people are still giving the hand like this or like this. Earlier days in the medieval times, that grip was always on the top. And now, because we got socialized and it's not so common anymore to show a big hand, we are more coming down to give the hand down here. And maybe you just focus also on how do you personally want to give someone the hand? Are you doing the lock-in, which means that you're really going together with the finger, or are you more want to keep a distance? The influence on the other person is the more you lock in and the more you press, or let's say not too much, but like appropriate to the other person's pressure, then the more you have a good start with that person. Which is my recommendation to you. Just don't push too much if you have a lady in front of you and you can imagine, okay, if I push like a hard